We're missing Sophie doing almost like the Muay Thai hand around their head.
Yeah.
Clark, and then they give a tech to Clark for shoving Sheldon, and Mabrey doesn't get ejected.
Sophie tries to wrap her up, and Sheldon gets to the floor, and all hell breaks loose.
Sophie Cunningham steps up, grabs her, knocks her down, gets a flagrant 2 for this, they end up calling.
This was the NBA. It would be everywhere, but this isn't the NBA. The NBA sometimes doesn't match the intensity of what I'm seeing on the screen with the WNBA.
JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball.
Yeah, slam her to the floor. Slam her through the floor. Y'all want to play dirty? Sophie gonna hold it down.
Everybody's getting better, except the officials. And the officials don't get control of the ball game when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long.
No one is talking about the fact that she really went for it.
Last night in Indianapolis, what started as a regular WNBA matchup turned into something much bigger, something the entire sports world couldn't ignore. It began with a fiery on-court exchange between Caitlin Clark and JC Sheldon. After a heated moment where Clark boldly responded to Sheldon's trash talk, tensions escalated fast. In the second half, things exploded. Sheldon, while defending Clark, appeared to poke her in the eyes.
I'm seeing Caitlin Clark go at it with a former Big Ten rival, one might say, in JC Sheldon, who at one point tells Caitlin Clark, "You can't do that." And Clark says back to her, clearly, if you read lips, "I can do whatever the F I want."
Clark shoved her back. And then, out of nowhere, Marina Mabrey stormed in and shoved Caitlin Clark straight to the floor, a hard, blatant hit that left the crowd stunned. What followed was even more shocking. Technicals were handed out, but not to Mabrey. Despite being the third player in and delivering the most violent contact, she wasn't ejected. That's when Rich Eisen saw it all unfold, and his reaction, unfiltered and furious.
The moment where Caitlin Clark has what appears to be poked eyes from Sheldon guarding her, and she shoves Sheldon back, at which point Marina Mabrey of the Connecticut Sun comes in and just shoves her, decks her to the ground, right to the floor.
What just happened on that court will be remembered for a long time. The Indiana Fever versus Connecticut Sun game started off slow, but it turned into a full-blown war. And at the heart of it, Sophie Cunningham stepping up and sending a message the entire league heard loud and clear.
Sophie Cunningham. At the end of the game, JC Sheldon is going for a fast break layup, and Sophie Cunningham is running with her. And I remember in my head, it happened in a split second, and I said, oh.
In the middle of another game, he stopped everything to call it out live. The foul, the favoritism, the failure of the officials, and the fact that Caitlin Clark continues to take hit after hit without proper protection. He didn't hold back.
Watching this, are the officials up to the task? First of all, it took forever on both reviews. I don't know if you saw this.
No, I'm kind of catching up on
that
on
both
Twitter
reviews, the one after the eye poking and the shoving and the technicals, took forever. Yeah. And it took forever. It's listen, Sophie Cunningham is a hard foul. She just used both her arms and threw Sheldon to the floor. Mm-hmm. I mean, at any rate, it took forever for them to look at it.
Sophie came with heat, and what happened next had everyone in the arena and online losing their minds. A shocking foul, hands flying, and a moment that might just go down as one of the most unforgettable clashes in WNBA history.
Look at Sophie. She's waiting for it. She's waiting for it, fam. And then I see why Allen got kicked out. Allen went for the throat. Allen went for Sophie's throat. Literally have her hand on her neck right there. Oh my goodness. But she's focused on Sheldon. So she reaches for Sheldon, grabs the back of her head. Is Sophie handling both of them?
It all started in the first half when Caitlin Clark found herself face-to-face with a familiar rival, JC Sheldon. The two, both former Big Ten stars, exchanged heated words. Sheldon tried to shut Clark down, telling her, "You can't do that." But Clark didn't back down for a second. With cameras catching every move, she fired right back. I can do whatever the fuck I want. But the real explosion came in the second half.
That was first half. Second half, you're seeing on the screen here the moment where Caitlin Clark has what appears to be poked eyes from Sheldon guarding her. And she shoves Sheldon back.
While guarding Clark, Sheldon appeared to poke her in the eyes. Clark, reacting immediately, shoved Sheldon back. Then, without warning, Marina Mabrey of the Connecticut Sun charged in and shoved Caitlin Clark hard to the floor, sending her crashing down. It was a blatant and physical move, the kind of hit that instantly turns a game into a brawl. The refs jumped in. A technical foul was handed to Sheldon for the eye poke, and Clark received one for the shove. But shockingly, Mabrey, the third player in and the one who delivered the most violent contact, wasn't ejected. She didn't even get the gate, just a technician.
Second half, you're seeing on the screen here the moment where Caitlin Clark has what appears to be poked eyes from Sheldon guarding her. And she shoves Sheldon back, at which point Marina Mabrey of the Connecticut Sun comes in and just shoves her, like decks her to the ground, right to the floor. And we're playing the feud on a Tuesday night in the WNBA. And it's on. And the officials give a tech to Sheldon for poking Clark, and then they give a tech to Clark for shoving Sheldon, and Mabrey doesn't get ejected. I mean, she just came in, third woman in, shoved Clark to the floor.
A message that said, we're not backing down anymore. In a game packed with elbows, shoves, and pure grit, one moment stole the spotlight. When Caitlin Clark was getting hit, grabbed, and harassed all game long, it was Sophie Cunningham who finally said, enough.
And eventually, Sophie Cunningham had enough. Oh yeah. Sophie Cunningham had enough, folks. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We wanted somebody like this that said, I'm tired of this. I'm trying to step up. It's time to step up. We're not going to get punked anymore. We're not going to get pushed around anymore. We're not going to get treated like a little sister anymore, like a little brother anymore. We are going to start being the one that say, you know what? We're not going to start the fight.
And that wasn't the end of it. Later in the fourth quarter, with tension still high, Clark buried a deep three over Sheldon. It was a statement shot, and she let her know it, barking as she walked to the bench, with the crowd erupting around her. Clark didn't stop there. She threw her arms up, fired up the home fans, and crossed the court to connect with the other side of the arena. The place went absolutely wild. This wasn't just physical play. This was a confrontation, one that left fans, players, and analysts stunned. And Caitlin Clark, once again, was at the center of the storm.
And she doesn't get the gate. And then later on in the fourth quarter, Clark buries a three over Sheldon to give the Fever an insurmountable lead. And she's barking at Sheldon as she's going to the bench because the Sun are calling for time. And she's clearly saying something back at Sheldon, who watched the three get buried by Clark in a 20-point night, by the way. And Clark starts yelling at her own crowd and rallying them and throwing her arms up in the air and walking from her huddle, out of the huddle, across the floor to the other side of fans who are going absolutely nuts.
While all of this was going down in the WNBA, Rich Eisen was watching something entirely different, Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. But even in the middle of that championship moment, his phone started lighting up. Notifications, clips, messages, all pointing to one thing. Something serious had just happened in the WNBA, and Caitlin Clark was in the middle of it. Rich caught up with the footage, and what he saw stunned him. He watched the sequence. J.C. Sheldon poking Clark in the eyes, Clark shoving back, and then Marina Mabrey charging in out of nowhere to shove Clark to the ground. What shocked him wasn't just the hit, it was that Mabrey wasn't ejected. She came in as the third person, leveled Clark, and yet walked away with only a technical.
Last night in Indianapolis, my phone starts lighting up during the first period of the Stanley Cup final, Game 6, that the Panthers, as we all know, won to win the championship in the season and all that stuff. I'm seeing Caitlin Clark go at it with a former Big Ten rival, one might say, in J.C. Sheldon, who at one point tells Caitlin Clark, "You can't do that." And Clark says back to her, clearly, if you read lips, "I can do whatever the F I want," is what she says to her. And that was first half. Second half, you're seeing on the screen here the moment where Caitlin Clark has what appears to be poked eyes from Sheldon guarding her. And she shoves Sheldon back, at which point Marina Mabrey of the Connecticut Sun comes in and just shoves her, like decks her to the ground, right to the floor.
Rich couldn't believe it, and he didn't hold back. On air, he broke it all down. From the slow response by the officials to the imbalance in punishment, he made it clear this wasn't how a professional league should handle moments like this. He pointed out how long it took for the officials to review the plays, how obvious it was that Sophie Cunningham's hard foul later in the game should have resulted in an immediate ejection, and how Marina Mabrey's shove was simply too blatant to be overlooked. But it wasn't just about the fouls. Rich focused on Caitlin Clark's connection with the crowd. He described how rare it is to see an athlete so tuned into their fans, comparing it to moments he'd seen from legends like J.J. Watt in Houston or Marshawn Lynch in Seattle. He said it felt like her energy was plugged into the sports universe itself, that her play, her passion, her presence was powering the entire atmosphere.
This is, of course, Sophie and Sheldon going down the floor. Sophie tries to wrap her up, and Sheldon gets to the floor, and all hell breaks loose. And Sophie said, "I'm not having it. I'm not having it. We'll go. We'll go." So there's that.
He even called his daughter Taylor over to watch because, in his eyes, this was a moment that mattered. A moment where intensity, competition, and visibility all collided. Caitlin Clark wasn't just playing basketball. She was leading a movement. And when Marina Mabrey shoved her to the floor, it wasn't just Clark who got knocked down. It was the integrity of how this league should handle its stars.
I called Taylor down to start watching this, my 11-year-old, because she wears Caitlin Clark stuff, Juju Watkins stuff. That's all she's doing these days. Honestly, it's just one shirt after another. It's either Caitlin or Juju Watkins. Every day. Every day. And Taylor's got some handle, and we show her all this sort of stuff. And I also don't mind showing her the intense competition here.
What unfolded on the court wasn't just about one foul or one player. It exposed something much deeper, the rising intensity of the WNBA, and a growing concern. Are the officials keeping up? As the game spiraled into physical chaos, all eyes turned to the referees. The reviews took forever. After Sheldon poked Clark in the eyes and Clark shoved back, the officials took their time deciding what to do, too much time. Then came the Marina Mabrey shove, and again, no ejection. Later, when Sophie Cunningham delivered a flagrant two-arm takedown on Sheldon, it felt like the game was slipping out of control, and that's exactly what Stephanie White, head coach of the Indiana Fever, called out.
Stephanie White, the head coach of the Fever, who are, by the way, going to represent their conference in the Commissioner's Cup against the Minnesota Lynx. And this is the in-season tournament for the WNBA. The coach of the Fever just laid it out all on the line about the officiating not being up to snuff. Like they need to catch up to a league that is getting more intense and physical to keep this somewhat in the rails here, because, I mean, we're not looking for roller derby here.
In the postgame, White didn't hold back. Standing beside Caitlin Clark, who had just been asked about her technical foul, White jumped in to take the question herself. What she said sent a clear message. when the officials don't get control of the ballgame. This is what happens. She made it clear this wasn't a one-time issue. It's been happening all season long. She emphasized the point, these are the best players in the world, and when the game is allowed to get too physical without proper officiating, things boil over. Tempers flare, teammates step in to protect each other, and without strong, consistent control from the referees, the league risks losing grip on the very intensity that makes it exciting. White went even further. Everybody's getting better, except the officials. The talent is rising, the league is evolving, the fans are more invested than ever. And yet the one area falling behind is the one meant to keep the game fair and safe. Caitlin Clark's own response highlighted that growing bond between player and audience. She said it herself, "That's how I play."
Clark was asked about picking up a tech, and White stepped in and said, "I'll take the questions about officiating," and said this.
When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game. It's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete. And they're going to have their teammates' backs. It's exactly what you expect, right? Out of fierce competition. So I started talking to the officials in the first quarter, and we knew this was going to happen. You could tell it was going to happen. So they got to get control of it. They got to be better. Everybody's getting better, except the officials.
Caitlin Clark took the hit, got back up, and still dropped 20. But what happened on that court and what Rich Eisen called out can't be ignored. This wasn't just about one shove. It was about accountability, protection, and respect for the stars who are changing the game.
She's clearly saying something back at Sheldon, who watched the three get buried by Clark in a 20-point night, by the way.
It was, to me, payback for what was happening the entire game. But she did it in a way that she wasn't going to injure JC. She was just making it known, like, if the refs aren't going to handle it, I will handle it.
She just came in, third woman in, shoved Clark to the floor, and she doesn't get the gate.
Sophie Cunningham, shout out to you for holding it down. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We need to be showering her with praise. Hit her on all her social medias. Tell her how much we love her.
I'm clapping Sophie Cunningham off the floor. We're clapping Sophie Cunningham off the floor right now. We're clapping her off the floor. She's getting high-fived off the floor right now.
So what do you think did Marina Mabrey cross the line? Should the officials have done more? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget this is bigger than just one game. This is serious.